Something about the comedy reminds me of my father, because he had a sense of humor that others may not know. However, those scenes bring back childhood memories. Bob Marley has been a symbol of peace, resistance, and spiritual resilience for decades. But beneath the mystique was a man and family with hidden wounds. We started making music with my father's help. Ziggy Marley, Bob's oldest son with Rita, is finally speaking out. His words are powerful. They didn't have tabloid drama at home. It was terrible. Ziggy claims she killed him. Bob died when Ziggy was 12. He says it's horrible to bear a legacy and loss that never faded. See what Ziggy Marley finally said about his father. Violence and turmoil in childhood. Few people talk about their darkest childhood memories. Talking about his childhood instability is cathartic and vital for Ziggy Marley. It shows Bob Marley's actual character. One memory haunts him. Ziggy was 8 when his world exploded. Not simply the fame or music. There was shooting. Loud, sudden, and too close. It was attempted to kill Bob Marley, Rita, and their children in their Kingston, Jamaica, home in December 1976. National political tensions were boiling over. Bob represented peace, power, and transformation, whether he wanted to or not. Some found him dangerous, others expendable. The Marley children were roused from bed the night of the attack, causing chaos and terror before daylight. Ziggy recalls it well. In the middle of the night, police took us kids to a secret hideout in the hills. It was unclear what was happening. Ziggy remembers it as frightened but exciting. This memory never left him. But that infantile amazement hid a grave danger. His view of everything changed after that trauma. His parents nearly died. Bob was shot in the chest and arm. Rita was shot in the head. Bob and Rita played at Smile, Jamaica 2 days after the shooting, despite being wounded. The gathering took place as planned to encourage togetherness in Jamaica's tumultuous political climate. For young Ziggy, that moment did not reflect bravery as reported worldwide. It was personal and disturbing. That pandemonium set the stage for his understanding of Bob Marley. He was a father, target, fighter, and defiant symbol. He recognized the Marley home was more than a reggae and peace retreat, political battleground. He grew up in that storm, watching his parents act and resist with bullet wounds. Ziggy rarely described that night so rawly till today, but the emotional weight of his father's legacy has made him quit protecting the myth. He's faced reality finally, and showing what it was like to grow up under siege as the world hailed a hero, the legend-fighting fighter. People loved my father, but he was violent. Ziggy plainly calls him a warrior. It's a rarely spoken aspect of Bob Marley. The world remembers the dreadlocked visionary singing about love and unity. Ziggy now reveals the message's author, a battle-forged man, someone whose life was more difficult than the posterized, tranquil character in documentaries and posters. Ziggy never saw the truth that way. Bob Marley sang peace. He lived through battle, internally and externally. Bob's upbringing in Trenchtown slums required more than talent. It took guts to survive. Bob learned to stand firm there, for himself and everything he believed in. The pseudonym Tough Gong wasn't artistic. It was street name. Not selected, earned. It showed Bob's fortitude, being steadfast, his reputation for tenacity. That image doesn't bother Ziggy. He's speaking up to reveal the truth. Bob wasn't soft. He was more than spiritual. He was scarred. Experience hardened him. That occasionally led to aggression. Ziggy saw it closely. Bob's restlessness extended beyond the studio and stage. At home, he was fierce and determined. When the guitars were put down, his music lost intensity. It generally involved sports, football boots, boxing gloves, running shoes, anything active and competitive. He was obsessed, Ziggy says. It was a huge part of his and my childhood around him. He enjoyed all sports. He was athletic. It wasn't simply enjoyable, it was outlet. Bob wasn't a spectator at Ziggy's elementary school. He played football with or against the kids. He was swift and kicked well. Ziggy laughs. That was his goal. Bob Marley running a football across a schoolyard may seem out of place with millions worship. It was genuine for Ziggy. It grounded. Realness comes with pressure. Bob's fame raised expectations and crowds. The weight his father carried is remembered by Ziggy. He was pushed for time, attention, money, and loyalty. He lacked his stage calm in private. Ziggy claims football freed him mentally. He breathed that way. He breathed. Even sports couldn't always relieve stress, because Bob was battling at home while supporting the globe, especially in his Rita marriage, Rita and Bob's difficult relationship. Behind the music, Marley's marriage was rocky. The foundation was love, loyalty, jealousy, and betrayal. After years of silence, Ziggy Marley is finally discussing his parents' behavior. His interest isn't myth preservation. He tells an unromanticized love story, a complicated relationship, one that survived infidelity, celebrity, illness, and roles. Several ladies had children with Bob. The secret wasn't hidden. The story went public. But the world didn't realize how much it hurt the family. Rita Marley stayed with Bob as his wife and a key character in his personal and professional life. She coordinated and performed with him. She cared for him while cancer spread in his final years. Ziggy doesn't downplay the hurt. He uttered something powerful in a rare emotional moment. Woman killed him. Spiritually and emotionally. The sadness of a son who witnessed love and pain coexisting. The weight of unresolved tensions, unsaid betrayals, and the steady loss of trust between two people who could never let go. Rita had her own issues. Bob was notoriously unfaithful. Somehow, loyalty survived treachery. Even when love had faded, loyalty remained. Ziggy said Bob was possessive of Rita. While living with ladies who came and went, he didn't want other guys to see her. Double standards and contradictions poisoned their relationship. Though unhealthy, it was theirs. Rita did what no one else could when Bob's health worsened. She was with him during the worst, according to family members. She handled stress, confusion, and emotion. In those final moments, their romance was gone. Duty, history, and something deeper remained. Ziggy's honesty deepens his parents' image. Bob says he's not Bob without Rita, and indeed, there was no category for their relationship. This connection was forged by music, survival, and compromise. Though it didn't look like love, it was true and lasted. Ziggy reveals that fact for the first time. It was flawed, not peaceful. Somehow, it worked. A while. Love and loyalty failed to protect them. Ziggy watched his family come apart after the assassination attempt. London years spark hope. Bob ran to London after the Kingston shooting. The tranquility of 42 Oakley Street in Chelsea allowed him to recuperate and compose. He was physically and mentally exhausted from Jamaica's instability, political pressure, and life threat. London gave him a rare break. Three Little Birds, one of his most hopeful melodies, was written in that haven away from Kingston's heat. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is going to be all right, became a global anthem. However, Ziggy Marley found those words more complex. While Bob was comforting his children with music, his children were still in Jamaica, recovering from the attack and adjusting to life without him. The oldest son, Ziggy, was 8. Ziggy navigated school, everyday routines, and a damaged home as Bob worked through his trauma in London. He speaks about that time with serene resignation, not resentment. He says you can feel sad looking back, but you have to do what you have to do. It was busy in school, so I just got by. Father-son distance was emotional as well as physical. Ziggy didn't grow up with Bob much. His father spent time touring in studios or in a foreign world, like in London. Even when present, he was rarely dad. Bob Marley, global icon, revolutionary, musician, myth. This kind of presence produces a peculiar absence for children. Ziggy doesn't blame, but he's now saying what was left unsaid. Bob was absent when it counted. Ziggy is still processing how that quiet, sad, and frequently buried fact influenced his life. Bob's creative retreat to London produced timeless music, but also showed his growing alienation from his children. While the world received 3 tiny birds, Ziggy acquired the loneliness of a boy longing for his dad. Their lives were shaped by their sacrifice, intended or not. Ziggy ultimately realizes the cost of his absence. Not broken, but transformed into something stronger, independent, and forged in a mythology. 8 Grammy Awards have gone to Ziggy Marley. Husband, father of 4, philanthropist, and respected musician. But no amount of accomplishment has freed him from his father's shadow. Ziggy's success can feel like a continuation of the Marley name's global heritage. Though he lives in Los Angeles hundreds of miles from where it all began, he still has Bob's Trenchtown accent. He holds the tone, cadence, cultural stamp, and weight. Bob Marley's stage is everywhere he goes. Ziggy is mentioned in every headline with his father. Performing Bob Marley covers at live events is expected, but he's pleased to do so. Ziggy doesn't mind the analogies. After the stillness, it's evident that honoring a heritage and living under it are different. Sometimes Ziggy leans in. He's done full tours playing his father's music. No obligation. Homage. But the emotional toll is genuine. They're more than music to him. They recall a premature breakup. One song hits hardest. Redemption Song. It touches me emotionally, he says. Around Bob's death, it was everywhere. It soundtracked public and private grieving. Ziggy still resembles the revered man decades later. Not only do fans look to him for music, they expect continuity from him. He admits this with grace and honesty, showing how hard it has been to reconcile his identity with his legacy. Breaking his silence doesn't separate Ziggy from his father, just acknowledging complexity, not merely Bob Marley's son. Growing up, he saw the world take his father. Privately, he was striving to keep what was left of Bob. That portion is in his music, family, and voice, he explains. The world claims it belongs to someone else. One tiny moment will forever bond father and son. Bob's final remarks to a youngster who had to grow up quickly when his father died. Last days and haunting words. Last memory of Ziggy's father is etched. He was 12 and peering through a hospital window. Bob, feeble and aging, saw him and called him in. "Well, young Bob, I have a song for you," his father remarked. The words that would haunt Ziggy forever followed. "Come up with me. Don't disappoint me on your way down." Not a traditional goodbye. Bob's message wasn't heartfelt. It transferred responsibility. A dying father wasn't only talking to his kid, giving him a legacy. Ziggy took those remarks more than advice. They weighed down. He never explained those dying minutes until now. He breaks his silence to share a disturbing reality. He's carried that weight since. Ziggy was visiting his grandma in Miami when the news arrived shortly after that final encounter. Nobody mentioned it up front. No formal announcement. Nobody mentioned your father's death. My sister appeared. I saw her face. I knew. The confirmation was silent, just from a sibling's gaze. A frozen moment. Ziggy confesses for the first time. He quietly bargained with God. He promised himself to be a nice lad if he might see his father again. That moment never came. He negotiated with the cosmos as a child to delay the inevitable. Unbeknownst to him, Bob's life had already ended. Ziggy's account of his final days includes a harsh criticism of his family, not his father. He says he had many individuals, but not the correct ones. Nobody could let him rest and heal while he was unwell and working hard. I disrespect that. Ziggy changes his voice when discussing what could have been. I wish I was there to give him the appropriate counsel. His accuracy was poor. It's sad, but not in a headline-grabbing sense, since a child must see his father fade in noise, pressure, and poor company. Ziggy had never mentioned it before. Ziggy hopes that his openness and a new film will show the world the real Bob Marley, a man with real challenges, emotions, and a fighting spirit. Bob Marley, One Love, a 2024 biopic, opened. Not just another music video. Ziggy Marley, who produced alongside his sister Cedella and mother Rita, used it to dispel myths and reveal the true humanity of the man everyone thinks they know. This story is Ziggy's first time utilizing film to communicate what words can't. Thought Bob would have liked the outcome. Ziggy says he laughed proudly and always wanted to make a movie. He was inventive, wanted to make Western. Bob's desire to make a Western shows how much of himself was hidden in the folklore. One Love, featuring Kingsley Benadir as Bob and Lashana Lynch as Rita, explores those hidden aspects. It goes beyond hits and tours. It explores Bob's struggles, conflicts, and relationships. It depicts a reggae hero and a guy fighting his own demons while carrying a nation's hopes. Ziggy says he has several hidden sides. They will perceive and relate to those sides. Ziggy values that connection most. Through posters, playlists, and slogans, he's seen the world consume father for years. But the man who sat in the hospital and said, "On your way up, take me up," and "Don't let me down," was more intricate than any single story could convey. This film isn't about profit or prestige for Ziggy, about legacy. The issue is control. The story must be reclaimed before it becomes myth. Ziggy faced his worst recollections during the assignment. It was emotional to relive his father's life through actors and staging while reading the play. It was also necessary. His point is that living with memories is different from showing them to the world. Ziggy has bravely opened out about Bob as a musician, parent, partner, and flawed human. One Love is the story of one life as related by the one who knew him best. Finally, Ziggy may recover from his lifelong absence. The weight of absence is unpleasant. Ziggy misses presence more than fame or wisdom. Dad was enjoyable, he says. His abilities surpass mine. Know what I mean? He accomplished plenty. It will last forever. Miss everything, but especially presence. That physical and mental separation left a lasting mark. Most of the world remembers Bob Marley as a musical prophet who never aged. But for Ziggy, his father never became the man he could have been. The losses of a parent and a new relationship. Ziggy didn't have time to bond, learn from him, or lean on him in life. The most human part, a father's daily presence, was taken. Bob's music still permeates his mother's house when he comes. Ziggy says, I listen to him when I don't miss him. The ritual keeps the memories alive, but never fills the hole. Ziggy thinks his dad is still alive. His spirit is in me. I share his presence. Sometimes I see him in me. I feel him and see some of his acts in me. Having is different from feeling. A gap remains that music, legacy, or time cannot fill. Ziggy sometimes feels like his father was there when he plays the Santa Barbara Bowl. It's like deja vu, and you picture, oh yeah, this is where my father played, and you think of him or what it was like for him to be here. Even though Ziggy had something to say, it's hard to talk when the world thinks it knows your tale. The reality is painfully simple now that he's opened up. It's bad. Ziggy lost a father, a future, and a world-perceived Bob, not the one he knew. Ziggy Marley showed the world a different side of Bob Marley. Was it right? Comment your thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you next video.